think that Shedeur Sanders is the best.
The Cleveland Browns may still be calling this a quarterback competition, but Shedeur Sanders is starting to make it look like a decision they are simply afraid to make, because every time the pressure rises, every time the field tightens, and every time the offense needs somebody to finish the job, Shadur keeps stepping forward and giving Cleveland the same answer. Touchdowns, control, confidence, and most importantly, no costly mistakes. This was not just another quiet training camp session where quarterbacks stood around throwing easy passes against air. This was one of those practices where every rep mattered, every decision was being watched, and every throw carried weight. The Browns are trying to figure out who deserves to lead this offense, and Shedeur Sanders once again made sure his name stayed right in the middle of that conversation. The biggest moment came when the offense moved into a 2-minute situation. That is where a quarterback has to think faster, communicate clearly, and make decisions without wasting time. There is no room to panic. There is no room to hold the football too long. The quarterback has to understand the situation, move the offense, and finish the drive. And that is exactly where Shadur looked comfortable. He did not play like a quarterback who was scared of making a mistake. He played like someone who expected to make the play. He moved the offense down the field, stayed under control, and helped finish the sequence with a touchdown. That matters because 2-minute drills are designed to reveal how a quarterback handles pressure. Coaches want to see who can stay calm when the clock is moving and the defense knows the offense has to throw. Shadur did not shrink in that moment. He looked ready for it. That is the part Cleveland can no longer ignore. It is easy to dismiss a few impressive throws during individual drills. It is easy to say a quarterback looked good when the defense was limited or when the situation was controlled. But it becomes much harder to dismiss him when he keeps producing during competitive team periods. Shadur is beginning to build a pattern. When he gets an opportunity, he creates offense. When the Browns ask him to finish a drive, he finds a way to finish it. When the defense forces him to be patient, he does not immediately put the ball in danger. He is not just hunting highlight throws. He is showing that he can manage the offense and still make the aggressive play when it is available.
Feels like you and Shadur have had some connections early in this camp. Where do you think, that connection, that chemistry comes from?
I think that just comes in trust. I believe I got trust with all the quarterbacks. We've been connecting a lot on a lot of different plays. But yeah, I think it just comes down to trust. It comes down to a mentality of that's my ball. I think that's what it comes down to. I do have that height advantage that I can abuse when I can, but at the same time, I think it comes down to a mentality of I'm gonna go get it. I don't have any doubts just because I come into everything I do very confident. I try to just be confident in everything I do.
That balance is exactly what a starting quarterback needs. The Browns do not need a quarterback who only looks exciting during warm-ups. They need someone who can understand the situation, protect the football, and put points on the board. Shadur finished this session with 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Those numbers do not tell the entire story, but they tell the most important part of it. He helped the offense score, and he did not give the defense the football. That is how quarterbacks win jobs. Deshaun Watson completed more passes during the session, but the difference was what happened at the end of those possessions. Watson finished without a touchdown. Shadur finished with 2. This does not mean one practice should decide the entire competition, but it absolutely means the Browns have to pay attention to who is creating scoring opportunities. Watson may have completed more passes, but Shadur completed the assignment. That is the kind of difference fans notice. It is also the kind of difference coaches eventually have to address. Completion percentage can look good on a practice sheet, but quarterbacks are ultimately judged by whether they move the offense into the end zone. Shadur did that twice while keeping his interception total at 0. And this is where the pressure on the Browns begins to grow. Because if Shadur was only producing one strong day, the team could easily call it a good practice and move on. But he continues to create these moments. He continues to show accuracy, confidence, and command. He continues to make throws that force the coaches, reporters, and fans to ask the same question. How long can Cleveland keep treating him like the backup if he keeps performing like the better quarterback? That question is becoming louder because Shadur is not getting every advantage. Watson still receives the first opportunity with the starting offense. Shadur still has to make the most of fewer premium reps. Yet he continues to create some of the biggest moments of camp. That tells you something about his mindset. He is not waiting for the Browns to make him comfortable. He is not waiting for perfect protection or the perfect receiver group. He is taking the reps he gets and trying to force the organization to notice him. That is what real competition looks like. A player cannot control when he enters the field, but he can control what happens once he gets there. Shadur is controlling what he can control, and the more he does that, the more dangerous this competition becomes for everybody ahead of him. Because once a young quarterback starts proving that he can score, protect the football, and lead situational drives, he stops looking like a developmental project. He starts looking like QB1. Now this is where the quarterback battle gets even more interesting because the numbers from this practice tell a story the Browns cannot simply brush aside. Shedeur Sanders finished 8 of 16 with 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions.
Who is your QB1 in your opinion?
I mean, is that even a question? Shedeur.
I think wrist up should be the quarterback, but probably is going to be 4 to start. However, we out here at camp, and this is where, jobs can, be took. And if Shadur can capitalize on a couple of things, maybe he can take the job. But I think Shadur should be the quarterback. I think 4 will probably be QB1.
Shedeur Sanders. I believe in young talent. I believe in talent that loves the city. I think we owe him a chance to show the love back.
Me personally, I really don't care who QB1 is. I just want good quarterback play. For the last few years, that's probably been the weakest position we didn't have. So whoever go out there, either 230 or number 2, I'm cool with it either way.
I think QB1 should be Shadur because Shadur just like that, I think Shadur just like the perfect fit for our team.
Deshaun Watson finished 13 of 25 with 0 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. On the surface, Watson completed more passes. But when you look at which quarterback actually turned his opportunities into points, Shadur clearly made the bigger impact. That is the difference between moving the ball and finishing the job. Quarterbacks are not judged only by how many short completions they stack up during practice. They are judged by what happens when the field gets smaller, the defense gets tighter, and the offense has to cross the goal line. That is where Shadur separated himself during this session. He did not just complete passes. He turned drives into touchdowns. And for Cleveland, that should matter more than anything else. The Browns have spent too much time over the years watching drives look promising before falling apart at the most important moment. They have seen quarterbacks move the chains and then stall near the red zone. They have seen decent statistics that did not lead to enough points. So when a young quarterback steps onto the field and consistently shows that he can finish drives, the organization has to take that seriously. Shadur gave them exactly that kind of performance. 8 completions on 16 attempts may not look perfect, but training camp statistics are rarely as simple as they appear. Some passes are thrown away. Some are dropped. Some plays are designed to test tight windows or difficult situations. The real question is what the quarterback did with the opportunities that mattered most. Shadur protected the football, made the key throws, and produced 2 touchdowns. That is the kind of line a coach can build around. It shows aggression without recklessness. It shows that Shadur was willing to attack, but he was not forcing the ball into dangerous areas just to create a highlight. He stayed composed, took what the defense gave him, and delivered when the Browns needed a scoring play. That balance is what makes this performance so important. A quarterback can be too cautious. He can complete easy throws, avoid mistakes, and still fail to put pressure on the defense. Another quarterback can be too aggressive, chase the spectacular play, and give the football away. Shadur is beginning to show that he can live between those two extremes. He can stay patient while still looking for the moment to strike. And that is exactly what a real starter has to do. Watson's line was not a disaster. He did not throw an interception, and he completed more passes than Shadur. But this is supposed to be a competition. That means every rep should be measured against what the other quarterbacks are producing. On this day, Watson had more attempts and more completions. Yet Shadur was the one who created the touchdowns. That comparison puts real pressure on the coaching staff, because if one quarterback is receiving more first-team opportunities while another quarterback is producing more scoring plays, people are naturally going to ask whether the rep distribution matches the actual performance. That is not unfair. That is what happens in every legitimate quarterback competition. Production has to carry weight. The Browns can talk about experience. They can talk about contracts, leadership, and familiarity with the system. All of those factors matter. But once practice begins, the field has to become the final judge.
At some point, when you start in the spring, or some point in the spring and the fall, you have to set some form of a depth chart in terms of reps. That's just the way it goes. And I said it the other day, the player, everybody's competing, but you're not guaranteed the same amount of reps. So it's up to the player to take advantage and maximize those reps, which I feel like Dylan has done. So we see as we move forward, if that continues, we'll continue to up his reps. I mean, he's earned that. That's what every player should expect, right? If they play well, you have to up their reps, or what's the purpose of playing well?
The quarterback who sees the defense clearly, gets the ball out, and finishes drives deserves to move up. Right now, Shadur keeps giving Cleveland reasons to move him up. What makes this even stronger is the 0 in the interception column. Young quarterbacks are often expected to make dangerous mistakes in camp. They are supposed to struggle with disguised coverages, hold the ball too long, or force throws when the play breaks down. Shadur did not play a flawless practice, but he avoided the mistake that can destroy an entire drive. He did not hand the defense an easy win. That is especially important in a 2-minute situation. One bad decision can end the entire possession. There is no second chance when the clock is running and the offense needs points. Shadur stayed calm enough to move the ball without turning the pressure into panic. That is not just arm talent. That is quarterback discipline. And this is why the raw completion numbers cannot be the only thing the Browns study. Watson's 13 completions may look better on paper, but Shedur's 2 touchdowns changed the entire meaning of the practice. One quarterback completed more passes. The other created more points. In a real game, everybody knows which result matters more. This does not mean the Browns should name Shadur the starter because of one stat line, but it does mean this performance has to become part of a larger pattern. If he continues protecting the football, leading scoring drives, and delivering in pressure situations, then Cleveland will eventually run out of reasons to keep him behind anybody. The numbers are no longer just making Shadur look competitive. They are starting to make him look ready. The next part of this battle is not just about the numbers. It is about the way Shedeur Sanders is delivering the football, because several of these throws looked like the work of a quarterback who is starting to see the field with real confidence. That matters because completion percentage alone can be misleading. A quarterback can complete an easy check down and still leave a better play on the field. He can throw late, force the receiver to stop, or place the ball in a spot that gives the defender a chance to recover. The real test is not simply whether the pass was caught. The real test is whether the quarterback made the receiver's job easier. Shadur showed signs of doing exactly that. On several throws, he appeared calm in the pocket, waited for the route to develop, and delivered the ball into a spot where the receiver had the advantage. That is a major detail in a quarterback competition. Good ball placement creates yards after the catch. It protects receivers from unnecessary hits. It also turns contested situations into completions because the defender is forced to play through the receiver instead of attacking the football. That is how a quarterback starts earning trust. The Browns need somebody who can do more than simply throw toward an open target. NFL windows close quickly. Defenders recover fast. A quarterback often has only a small area where the ball can safely go, and Shadur is beginning to show that he understands how to attack those areas. Some of his best throws were not wide-open passes with no pressure. They required timing, patience, and confidence. He had to trust that the receiver would reach the correct spot, and then he had to put the football there before the defense could react. That is real quarterback work.
I think Shedeur Sanders, I know you're paying Deshaun Watson a bunch of money, but you literally have nothing to lose. He can't do any worse.
I feel like it should be Shadur. I've been following him for a while. He works hard, and you can tell like his improvement since last year, like all the things he did through. Like he just channeled that, and he's putting all his all into it this year. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be him.
I think Shedeur Sanders should be the QB1 because I think he gives us a future and more to build off of rather than Deshaun Watson.
I think QB1 should be Shadur because he got a lot going. Deshaun, he's already had his years and he hurt. It's like Shadur up and coming, he should be the next QB to show Deshaun.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's Shedeur Sanders. But before that, his stats are just better. He wins more games. He's a winner. Deion Sanders is a winner. So is his kid. It's Shadur until we win the Super Bowl.
There is also something important about Shedur's body language. He does not look like he is entering every rep hoping nothing goes wrong. He looks like he expects to make the play. That kind of confidence can be dangerous when a quarterback becomes careless, but Shadur has been pairing it with better control. He is not just throwing wild passes and hoping his receiver saves him. He is trying to place the ball with purpose. That is what made the touchdown production even more encouraging. The touchdowns were not simply the result of broken coverage or defenders falling down. Shadur had to identify the opportunity, trust the route, and deliver the pass into the right area. Every successful scoring throw adds another piece of evidence that he is becoming more comfortable inside the Browns' offense. And comfort changes everything. A young quarterback who is thinking too much often looks slow. His feet stop moving. His eyes stay on one receiver too long. The pass comes out late and the defense gets a chance to close the window. Shadur looked more decisive in these situations. He appeared to understand where the ball needed to go and gave the play enough time to develop without waiting forever. That balance is difficult to teach. Quarterbacks have to be patient, but they cannot be hesitant. They have to remain aggressive, but they cannot become reckless. Shadur is showing signs that he understands the difference. He is allowing routes to open while still getting the ball out before the defense takes control. That is why the Browns should be looking beyond the basic practice totals. The numbers tell us that he finished with 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. The film can tell the coaches why. It can show whether he read the defense correctly, whether he moved through the progression, and whether the football arrived on time. Those details will determine whether this was simply a productive practice or another sign that Shadur is becoming a complete starter. From what was shown, he looked comfortable attacking different parts of the field. He was not surviving on one type of throw. There were passes from the shotgun, throws that required patience, and moments where he had to let the receiver work downfield. That variety is important because an NFL defense will not allow a quarterback to live on the same easy concept all game. A real QB1 has to prove he can win in different ways. He has to take the short completion when the defense gives it to him. He has to attack the sideline when the matchup is there. He has to throw with touch, throw with timing, and occasionally drive the ball into a tighter window. Shadur is not perfect in every one of those areas, but he keeps showing enough growth to make the competition uncomfortable for Cleveland. And that discomfort is a good thing. The Browns need to feel pressure to make the right decision. They cannot allow the quarterback battle to become a ceremony where the result is already decided. Every accurate throw from Shadur should force the coaches to review the depth chart. Every touchdown should increase his opportunity. Every strong situational rep should bring him closer to the first offense. That is how a real competition is supposed to work. The most impressive part is that Shadur appears to understand what this moment requires. He does not need to win the job with one impossible highlight. He needs to keep stacking good decisions, accurate throws, and scoring drives. One rep may get attention, but consistency is what changes the depth chart. And right now, he keeps giving the Browns something new to study. A well-placed pass may not always create the loudest reaction, but coaches notice it. They notice when the receiver can continue running. They notice when the defender never has a real chance at the football. They notice when the quarterback throws before the break instead of waiting until the player is already open. Those are starting quarterback details. That is why Shedur's performance is becoming harder to explain away. He is not only producing better results, he is showing signs of better process. The touchdowns get the headlines, but the timing and placement are what could eventually win him the job. This is where the Browns' quarterback battle starts becoming uncomfortable, because Deshaun Watson may still be taking the first snaps with the starting offense, but Shedeur Sanders keeps finding ways to steal the attention anyway. That is a serious problem for Cleveland's current quarterback order. The Browns can decide who walks onto the field first. They can decide which quarterback works with the number 1 receivers. They can decide how the practice reps are divided. But they cannot decide which quarterback makes the most out of those opportunities once the ball is snapped. And right now, Shadur keeps making his reps count. Watson opened portions of practice with the first-team offense while Shadur worked behind him. That gives Watson an obvious advantage. He gets more time with the players expected to be on the field when the season begins. He gets the stronger protection, the most experienced targets, and more chances to build timing with the starting unit. Shadur does not always receive those same conditions. Yet he still finished the session with 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He still produced during the 2-minute drill. He still made throws that became some of the most discussed moments from practice. That is exactly why this competition cannot be judged only by which quarterback enters the huddle first. The Browns have to judge what happens after they enter it. A depth chart is supposed to reflect performance. It should not become a shield that protects one player from being challenged by another. Watson's experience may have earned him the first opportunity, but that opportunity cannot become permanent if Shadur continues to produce better results. That is where the pressure on Todd Monken begins to rise. Monken has talked about competition and player development. He has indicated that Shadur is making progress and doing good work. but eventually those words have to lead to something real. If Shadur keeps delivering touchdowns, protecting the football and handling pressure situations, then praise alone is not enough. The next reward has to be better reps. That does not mean Cleveland has to name him the starter immediately. Training camp is supposed to be a process. Coaches need to study command, accuracy, decision-making, and how each quarterback handles the full offense. But if one player keeps performing well with the second unit, the natural next step is to test him with the first. Otherwise, what is the competition really proving? Shadur cannot win a job if the conditions never change. He can dominate his current opportunities, but at some point, the Browns have to place him beside Watson with the same protection, the same receivers, and the same defensive looks. That is the only fair way to understand where this battle truly stands. And Shadur is earning that chance. There is also something dangerous about a quarterback who refuses to disappear. Young players can become frustrated when they feel trapped behind an established veteran. They can start pressing. They can force throws because they believe every play has to become a highlight. They can become impatient and lose control of the offense. Shadur has not allowed the rep order to break his confidence. Instead, he keeps showing up and making plays. He appears focused on the opportunity in front of him rather than the opportunity he believes he deserves. That mindset is exactly what allows a quarterback to survive a difficult competition. He does not need to complain about the depth chart when his production can make the argument for him. Every touchdown makes that argument louder. Every clean 2-minute drive creates another reason to move him forward. Every practice without an interception removes another excuse for keeping him behind the starter. Shadur does not control the Browns' decision, but he is doing everything possible to make that decision harder. That is how a player forces change without saying a word. The Browns can continue giving Watson the opening snaps, but if Shadur keeps producing the better endings, fans are going to notice. Reporters are going to notice. More importantly, the players inside the locker room are going to notice which quarterback is consistently putting the offense in position to score. A football team always knows when a competition is real. Players see who communicates with confidence. They see who delivers under pressure. They see which quarterback gives them a chance when a play begins to break down. Coaches may control the public message, but the locker room understands what is happening on the field. That makes every Shadur touchdown even more important. Because this is not only about impressing the coaching staff. It is about building belief across the offense. Receivers need to trust that the football will arrive in the right place. Linemen need to believe that their quarterback will make a smart decision under pressure. The entire unit needs to feel that the player behind center can finish the drive. Shadur is beginning to create that belief. And once a quarterback builds that kind of confidence around him, keeping him buried on the depth chart becomes much more difficult. The first-team label only carries power when the first-team quarterback looks like the best option. If another player keeps making the bigger plays, that label begins to feel temporary. That is the real danger for Watson. Shadur does not have to win every rep. He does not have to complete every pass. He simply has to keep showing that when Cleveland gives him a meaningful opportunity, he can turn it into something. So far, that is exactly what he has been doing. The Browns can control the rotation, but they cannot control the results. And if those results continue looking like touchdowns, smart decisions, and late practice execution, Todd Monken will eventually face a choice he cannot avoid. Either reward Shadur with legitimate first-team opportunities or explain why the quarterback producing the strongest moments is still being treated like the second option. At this point, the Browns can no longer treat Shedeur Sanders' performance like one random hot practice. One good day can happen to anybody. A few clean throws can come from favorable coverage. Even a touchdown can sometimes be created by a defensive mistake. But when the same quarterback keeps producing the same positive results across multiple sessions, it stops looking like luck and starts looking like a real pattern. That is exactly what Shadur is building right now. He keeps finding the end zone. He keeps protecting the football. He keeps creating moments that force everybody around the Browns to stop and pay attention. And every time Cleveland gives him another opportunity, he seems to add something new to the argument that he deserves a serious shot at QB1. That consistency is what makes this different. A backup quarterback can walk into one practice, catch the defense off guard, and put together a strong afternoon. But a legitimate starter has to keep answering the same challenge over and over again. He has to show that yesterday was not a fluke. He has to come back the next day, face new defensive looks, and still find a way to move the offense. Shadur keeps doing that. The Browns are not seeing one isolated highlight. They are seeing a quarterback who continues to make accurate throws, handle situational football, and finish drives with points. That is a much stronger case than one dramatic pass floating around social media. Highlights can create excitement, but repeated production changes a depth chart. That is why this latest training camp performance carries so much weight. Shadur did not need to throw for 5 touchdowns or complete every pass to make his point. He simply needed to continue showing the same qualities Cleveland has already seen from him. Composure, confidence, ball security, scoring ability. Those are not small details. Those are the exact traits a coaching staff should be looking for when deciding who deserves to lead an NFL offense. A starting quarterback has to make the difficult throw, but he also has to avoid the disaster. He has to attack when the opportunity appears, but he cannot allow excitement to turn into reckless football. Shadur is showing that balance more often. That may be the biggest sign of his growth. Earlier in his career, people questioned whether his confidence would lead him to hold the ball too long or chase the perfect play. But during this camp, he has looked more willing to trust the design, deliver the football, and move on to the next snap. He is not trying to win the entire competition with one throw. Instead, he is stacking evidence. One clean read becomes one completion. One completion keeps the drive alive. One disciplined decision prevents a turnover. Then, when the scoring opportunity finally arrives, he attacks it. That is how a quarterback earns a job over time. And this is where the conversation around Shadur needs to change. He should not be described as a player who is simply flashing potential anymore. Potential is what people talk about when the results have not arrived yet. Shadur is producing real results in front of the coaching staff. 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions are results. A successful 2-minute drive is a result. Good ball placement under pressure is a result. Continuing to stand out while receiving second-team opportunities is a result. When all of those things happen together, the Browns have to stop acting like they are still waiting to see whether he belongs. He has already shown that he belongs in the competition. Now the real question is how far Cleveland is willing to let that competition go. Will the Browns give Shadur more first-team reps and allow the battle to develop naturally? Or will they keep the current order in place and hope his production eventually slows down? Because right now, it is not slowing down. Every strong practice creates more pressure on the organization. Every touchdown makes the current depth chart harder to defend. Every day without an interception weakens the argument that Shadur is too risky or too inexperienced to handle a larger role. The excuses are becoming smaller while the evidence becomes bigger. And that is dangerous for any veteran quarterback trying to hold on to the top spot. Watson does not need to play badly for Shadur to create pressure. Shadur only needs to keep proving that he can produce at a higher level when his number is called. That is exactly what he is doing. This competition is not being shaped by one terrible Watson performance or one perfect Shadur practice. It is being shaped by the steady difference between opportunity and production. Watson continues to receive the first-team label, but Shadur continues to produce the moments that people remember. Eventually, those two things have to meet. The Browns cannot keep saying they want competition while ignoring the player who keeps strengthening his case. A real quarterback battle should reward progress. It should reward consistency. And most importantly, it should reward the quarterback who gives the offense the best chance to score without giving the football away. Shadur is checking those boxes. That does not mean he has nothing left to prove. Training camp is only one stage. Preseason pressure will be different. Live game speed will test every quarterback in new ways, but the purpose of camp is to identify who is ready for those tests, and Shadur keeps looking more prepared with every session. He is not asking to be judged on his name. He is asking to be judged on what happens when the ball is snapped, and when Cleveland does that, the argument for him becomes stronger. The throws are there. The touchdowns are there. The decision-making is improving. The confidence has never disappeared. Now the consistency is arriving too. That is what turns a talented quarterback into a serious QB1 candidate. Not one loud moment. Not one viral clip. Not one impressive stat line. It is the ability to return every day and force the same conversation all over again. The Cleveland Browns can keep calling this a competition, but Shedeur Sanders is making one thing harder to deny with every practice. He is not just hanging around the quarterback room. He is not just waiting for somebody else to fail. He is building his own case, one touchdown, one clean decision, and one pressure-filled drive at a time. That is what makes this situation so important. Shadur is not winning people over with promises. He is doing it with production. He is showing that he can move the offense, protect the football, and stay calm when the situation gets tighter. Those are not backup quarterback traits. Those are the exact qualities Cleveland needs from the player leading this team. And now the pressure shifts to Todd Monken and the Browns. How many more strong practices does Shadur need before the rep order changes? How many more touchdowns does he need before he gets a real chance with the first-team offense? How many more times does he have to outperform expectations before Cleveland stops treating him like the player chasing QB1 and starts treating him like the player who may already deserve it? Because the field is beginning to tell a different story. The current depth chart may still place Watson first, but the strongest moments are not always coming from the first quarterback in line. Shadur continues to create the plays that people remember. He continues to give the offense energy. And most importantly, he continues to put himself in position to win this battle without needing excuses from anybody. That is how a quarterback earns respect. Nobody is saying one practice should decide the entire season. Shadur still has more work ahead of him. Preseason games will bring more pressure, faster defenses, and bigger consequences. But training camp is where quarterbacks earn those opportunities. And Shadur is doing everything the Browns should be asking him to do. He is producing, he is improving, he is staying ready. Now Cleveland has to decide whether this competition is truly based on performance. If it is, Shadur should keep moving closer to the first-team offense. He should receive the chance to prove himself with the same players, the same protection, and the same level of responsibility as Watson. Anything less will only make the questions louder, because Shedeur Sanders is no longer just a popular name surrounded by hype. He is becoming the quarterback who keeps delivering when people expect him to struggle. He is turning limited opportunities into real production. And that is exactly how a player changes the direction of a franchise. The Browns may not be ready to name him QB1 yet, but Shadur is making it harder for them to name anybody else. Now I want to hear from you. After another strong training camp performance, has Shedeur Sanders already done enough to deserve the QB1 job? Or does Cleveland still need to see more before making the decision? Drop your answer in the comments, hit the like button if you believe Shadur is winning this battle, and subscribe because this Browns quarterback fight is only getting more intense.